How about less blues, baby?
I need all the wins, yeah. Ain't no L's, I gotta get a no call and quits, yeah. Gotta keep on moving no matter how hard.
Here comes Danny Tucci-Zala, back to Baker, Baker with the fin. Kurt Baker in for DC, and this may well do it old glory with the try. The New Zealand Sevens legend, Kurt Baker with the cherry on top.
Can you believe it?
Welcome back to the On the Line Rugby Podcast, a show brought to you by the Believe Sports Network. I'm your host, Mike Nagaishi, and welcome back. Man, what a great way to open up World Cup festivities down in France. The All Blacks, first of the host nation, 82,000 people in attendance at the fortress known as Stade Francais. Full, maybe 80% worth of French chefs were the celebrity count, but who cares? A great game of footy was played, and unfortunately, a very one-sided game. And, I hate to say it to my All Blacks fans, but, man, y'all took a shellacking from that French offense, and a lot of it was self-inflicted. But let's just get into some of the biggest takeaways that I've had from this game. We're ad-libbing a lot of this, just wrapped up. No script, so be wary. I think as a whole, when you look at the game, the scoreline was a lot closer than what it should have been on just looking off the box score alone. For those of you who watched it, you know what I'm talking about. But, I think the three things of points of failure that the All Blacks faced was discipline, lack of ability to protect the ball at the breakdown, and their line speed really biting them in the end. Well, in discipline first, I think the biggest thing we all can look at is the yellow card to Will Jordan. Now, I'm not complaining that the yellow card was a yellow and not a red. I do believe that within the lay of the land and the way the laws work, that was a yellow. And I do believe that the penalty was the right call for the second one, as he did kind of get shoved at the end. But, I as a test level athlete that Will Jordan is, he's no slouch, one of the most elite players on the world. I would say if he was anywhere, he'd be a starting fullback any day of the week. But man, you just shouldn't be putting yourself in that position. I especially with the first one, to not even go up for the ball, or to even not time it properly to where he doesn't hit the ground. He was clearly still in the air, and I think that will hurt him moving forward, at least confidence-wise, with his ability to attack the point of reception. So, that's something to look into moving forward. But on the whole, they were just trying to go for too much home runs. You could tell that they were trying to play a different game. I noticed a lot of new opening things in that first half. Beauden Barrett getting really involved, especially with not only being the second pivot, taking away a lot of that pressure from Mwanga to force, options available, to run a couple set piece plays that really got Rico Ioane open in that first 20 minutes, to, getting Mark Talea open for his first try of the match. They were playing a different game, definitely not something that they were used to. I think they were just trying to counter the French flair brand of play and trying to play off of that and play fast. And unfortunately, that didn't work in the greatest way that they had hoped. Outside of that, you really just have the masterclass by Damien Penaud, and man, Matthew Jalibert is truly something else. I really wasn't expecting a lot out of him at the 10 level to be that sort of Richie Mwanga, type of player that he is in that provincial level at the 10 spot. I thought he better slots kind of in that 12 to 15 double pivot, almost Beauden Barrett type of zone. Let him play with the space and just let him be a jitterbug out there. But man, did he translate that to playing flat, because the two plays that they allowed the All Blacks in was absolutely fantastic play. Even the one that Penaud did end up dropping short, it was perfect. because of the All Blacks line speed, and this is another one of their points of failure, they shot up, did not improperly mark a man, Jalabert ended up taking, I believe it was 2, the broadcast said 2. I definitely think it was at least 3 of the All Blacks defensive line, that left the center, Jordy Barrett, really wide and vulnerable. Call up for support. No one obviously heard him. And it was a 3-on-1 matchup, and that was going to go in no matter what. And it took Richie Mwanga probably saving that with a game-saving tackle to stop it from getting out of hand early. And that just kind of just shooter mentality of just rushing in, playing the line speed, just getting in their face. Yes, it works. It works in a lot of ways. It takes away the ability to options. It forces you to really play off the cuff. But man, when you get exploited, especially in that back end, you get exploited. And Jalabert did a perfect job. Peno did a perfect job. All of his scores that he set up or even attempted to push in were fantastic. And I think he was the jitterbug of that offense. Defensively wise, at the breakdown, the All Blacks lost so much to Gregory Aldrit and the boys. They came to party. They went to the trenches and they said, we're going to not play our slower subterfuge type of match that we all expected them to play. They took it fast. They kept it in DuPont's hands, and that worked out very well. And at the breakdown, man, that they just have an unstoppable motor. What can I say? That hasn't been said already. They're an elite team down there, and at least on the crash ball line, I think between Charles Olivon and Aldrit, I definitely think that Aldrit takes the top for as man of the match for that forward pack line, just because their ability to just move the ball and find the littlest, tiniest bit of space in that All Black defensive line and just shooting it, getting yourself skinny, getting an extra 5-10 meters is going to be something that they're going to be looking for deep down in the long run when they start taking off those options out wide. And the French definitely have a perfect formula. I loved how they stayed grounded and said it's not over yet, because it really isn't. I would be one to say that, the All Blacks definitely have their number called on them, especially now, given that they've taken 2 historic L's back to back, and they're going to need to really rally up and get strong. I think losing Sam Cane in the beginning of the match hurt them mentally. Don't get me wrong, having those replacements on board, having all those experienced talent really matters, but that is just something that will need to be carefully watched over and carefully evaluated moving forward as to how they will be able to bounce back and be able to play back to what their strengths were in that match when they had it tight versus not. I think the biggest thing was they let themselves go. They came in extra hungry and they wanted to make plays, and that hunger to make plays costed them outright. They're going to need to play a lot more conservative and almost play that slower game if they want, and stay composed if they want to move far in the tournament. I personally still have them as a pool stage exit. I do not have them moving up, but it's yet to be seen, and hopefully we'll just see what happens. I think as for other teams, I am really looking forward to that release their lineups. Australia fixed a lot of the things outside of David Parecchia on selection. Like, what are you doing? But that they switched up a lot of the problems that I think they had most. Having Carter Gordon out there with no help out of Ben Donaldson, now slotting him in to 15 instead of Andrew Kellaway. Great upgrade. I think on the defensive standpoint, Donaldson can play both sides of the ball. His kicking is borderline, if not comparable to Carter Gordon's. I prefer Carter Gordon as a kicker when he's on, but Donaldson offers a good second option. His offensive ability obviously as a second pivot and as another one to call plays is another thing to look forward to. I think that'll be a big point of difference in this match. And, he won't knock on the balls that Kellaway did. At least I hope not. But yeah, their fullback spot secured. I think that's probably going to be the way they're going to land for the tournament, unless they bring up JOC. Please bring up JOC. I can't stop lobbying for this. Bring Brad Wilkin. Bring JOC. That's all you got to do. Come on. But outside of that, bringing in Samu Karevi at center spot is a perfect pairing. He showed up in the rugby championship stages. He showed that he can play. He's been balling in Japan. I definitely think that Australia should have used him a lot earlier than what they have. And he's effective at multiple things. Obviously everyone knows him for the powerful hits he does. Everyone knows him for the runs, but let's face it, he's become more of a point guard in his older age than a lot of people think. And I think that's one of the most underrated traits of him. If they can master that 3-place pivot, that'll be an absolute nightmare between him, McDermott, and Donaldson. Insane. And I can't wait for it. I think for Carter Gordon, you really have to, I'm not going to say minimize his pressure, but almost keep everyone doing AX job. So with Carter Gordon, his job would be to manage the space, play his side-to-side flat rugby, elusiveness, and let his speed play. Let the other boys, let McDermott, let Karevi, let Donaldson decide the tempo of the game, point out spaces for him to manage. And I think Carter Gordon will do extremely well. I just think he needs to get that confidence back. And with a physical team like Georgia on the horizon, that'll be an interesting matchup to see how they utilize that 4-man basically playmaking show to get them over the hump versus arguably, if not, top 2 best scrummaging forward packs in the land. There's some point of differences obviously all around the board, but that's something that we should really look into. As for the rest of this weekend, I can't overstate this enough. Fiji has an wide open chance at making a quarterfinal. And, when they release their lineup, it's full of that patented Fijian flair that all of us love and all of us have been looking for. You have your stalwarts like your Semi Radradras, you have your, Ravu Taumandas, you have your Drosses, your Vinaya Habosis. But not only that, you have your Joshua Tuisovas off the bench. This is a nasty lineup. And honestly, my young hooker, Tavita Ikanaveri, is still on the bench. This is going to be a gangbusters lineup for Fiji to face Wales. I think that they'll knock them out of the pitch. And it'll be a fun match to watch for sure for all of you guys who are either pirating or who are actually buying the streams on Peacock, for those of you who can afford that outrageous fee. But I think the biggest point of difference is whether or not they can move on after the loss of Caleb Muntz to, by the looks of it, a very nasty knee injury in practice prior to the World Cup. He's out for the rest of the tournament. Where do I think that France will fare for the Fijians? I don't know personally. I haven't watched a lot of film on Tati Tella. He's currently the back slated to replace Caleb Muntz, but I like Caleb Muntz. He was a young kid straight out of the Drua. He played well, and I mean extremely well. For all of you who haven't watched Super Rugby or have but didn't really watch the Drua, I strongly suggest you watch Caleb Muntz play. He has a mixture of everything you want. He has playmaking, he has the speed, and obviously the patented athleticism that Fiji, has shown around the world. But I think they're still in a good spot to still make it. Hopefully, if they do go far and then place, I hope Muntz does get a trophy because, or a medal, because of the fact that it would have been the team that pushed them over the top. And he is a huge point of difference. Yes, he'll have to wait another 4 years, but I can't wait for that to happen. He will be an absolute unit on that world stage. Don't worry for the rest of us in the U.S. who don't really have a one team to really root for. There's a bunch of guys from around the league that I can suggest that you look into that you should root for. You have Sama Malolo and Ed Fidao for Samoa. You have Rian Conradi and Leroux Malan playing for Namibia under former Springbok head coach Alistair Coetzee. You have Thomas Kubeli, obviously, playing, and Marcos Moroni playing for Michael Checa in Argentina, and obviously all the Uruguayan signings that the MLR recently has had. There's a huge flux. South American teams deserve a spot in the Tier 1 stages. They're a great side. They've been giving, obviously, the Eagles hard rub over the last couple years. They're developing into that side that we should really be sleeping on. They're almost as if kind of taking in that Japanese, cresting over the top of the Miracle Brighton way of development. And I think that we can expect a lot out of the South Americans for this World Cup and just in general. Obviously, for all my fantasy players, join World Rugby Fantasy. Great platform to play it on. If not, Super Brew actually just started their Super Rugby, not Super Rugby Fantasy, World Cup Fantasy, excuse me, this week. And, it's unlimited transfers up until, the All Blacks have played. Unfortunately, for those of you watching this, you have missed the window, but for at least round one. But it is obviously, for everyone who knows, a great platform. I definitely think you guys should try to play it, get some friends, join a league, make something happen. And that's going to be it for me this week. But thanks for coming in, and hope to see you guys